All right, can everyone see my screen okay with the tackling the labor shortage? Excellent. All right, so gonna go ahead and get things kicked off here. We have Charlena Green from Any Event LLC. We've got Mike Biondi from TGIF, and hopefully we're gonna have Cam join us here shortly from Render Events. I want to give a little bit of an intro for folks who aren't familiar with the people on our panel. To kick us off, Charlena Green is the owner of Any Event Linen and Chair Rental located in Central Florida. With more than 10 years of event and marketing experience, this has allowed her to thrive in the rental industry, and her goal is always to provide excellent customer service as well as high quality customer experience. They specialize at Any Event in wedding rentals, and they are committed to quality products, seamless customer experience, and they have even been featured in numerous publications, including an award recently, 2021 Wedding Wire Couples Choice Awards. Wow, congratulations, Charlene, that's amazing.
And 2022. So,
oh my goodness. Yes. That's lovely. Congratulations. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Some folks also may recognize you from an ad that we have featured your smiling face in. It's one of my favorite ads because it's just so joyful. You're wearing pink and there is like glitter, and every time I see it, it makes me smile. So thanks for allowing us to feature you in one of your wonderful testimonials.
Thank you.
We also have Cam Petty. Hey, Cam.
Hey, so sorry. I was in a client meeting that ran a little late. So I'm so sorry that I'm here a little late.
No worries. That'll happen. I'm just giving a little intro here, so I'll jump right to you then. Cam Petty is the CEO and founder of Render. So with a decade of entrepreneurship and her ambitious high-end achiever spirit, Cam thrives on using education to make true connections with people. So she has experienced every step of building a company from the ground up, which she did on her own for her company, Render. And then she also educates others. So in addition to having a creative inventive firm called Render, she also provides educational resources like her Rental Biz Academy, which has now been referenced, I believe, in several sessions. Some people just sort of, were throwing at you out by first name. I had to interrupt one time and say, let me make sure everyone knows who Cam is so they know where to find this. And so lots of interest. And Cam is located in Dallas, but she serves the worldwide community when it comes to her education. So we're very happy to have you as well. Thank you, Cam.
Thanks for having me.
We also have Mike, although we cannot see Mike, but I'm going to cross my fingers that he'll suddenly appear at some point throughout. Michael Biondi is the president of TGIF Event Services. He has been in the business for almost 40 years, so started right out of the womb. He has put together events from 10 people to 100,000 people in his free time. He enjoys working out and playing hockey and hanging out with us at some tent conferences recently. We've had the pleasure of seeing Mike at 2 tent conferences recently, which is always fun. We'll talk about that in a bit. His business, TGIF Event Services, started on the DJ and entertainment side over 45 years ago. And in 2007, he started expanding into the rental side with tents and tables and chairs. And now 15 years later, owns over $6 million worth of inventory. So a major player in New York, if you couldn't tell by his accent. And that is rounding out our panelists for today. So thank you, Mike, for being here.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So I am going to kick things off with some questions that I have for all of you. But again, I really want to remind everyone to pop in that Q&A. At the bottom of your Zoom, you should see a Q&A option. Pop that open, start sending any questions you have, either for any of the specific panelists or for them as a whole. Again, we're really excited with this panel to have people who have all different specialties, people who won, awards for their Wedding Wire Couples Choice. We have people who do a mix of education and the events and home staging, as Cam does. Mike having that DJ and entertainment background. I think it's a really well-rounded panel here. So I think we're going to get a lot of different perspectives when it comes to bringing in staff, keeping staff. Employees have been a hot topic today in all of our other sessions as well. So the first things we're going to talk about is a little bit about where to look. This is a question we get all the time. Where do I even start with looking? How to look. I'm a big believer in this. You have to be very methodical in what you're doing in the interview process. You can't just chat with someone and go, wow, they seem lovely. That's how I think a lot of people end up with the wrong employees, because a lot of people can be charming in an interview. We'll talk about training and setting for success. This is something Cam and I have talked about a lot. She actually spoke last year at our user summit about standard operating procedures. So we'll chat a bit about that. And then retaining talent. I've already given a little bit of a spoiler of one of the things that I know Mike does, which is he brings his staff to conferences and takes them out to some of the fun parties. And I think that's just a wonderful example of the things that are really important for getting people to feel appreciated and excited to be a part of a team. So again, keep those Q&A coming and we'll make sure we get to all of those as well at the end. So let's start with the where to look. This is a question we get a lot. I'm going to start by calling on Charlena. Tell me, are there any tips of where you even put a job posting, who you ask?
Yeah, so definitely, we definitely use the typical things like Facebook groups. I even created my own group. So it's really just saying like any event, we are a wedding rental company. If you're looking for jobs, join the group. And then we get a lot of people from that group. So they know exactly what they're getting into when they join the group. So that's really great for us. Another unique option that we do work with is actually working with our local staffing agencies. So that really gives you that opportunity to work with individuals who want to work. And the staffing agency, they are very aware of your brand, what you expect. So every time we get new staff, they understand who we are, what we do. So when they show up on site, they know exactly what to do as well as expectations. So those two pillars have been very great for us because it allows us to more so not have to worry about, they have to work 8 hours because we promised them a full-time shift, or we promised them, 6 hours or whatever the case may be. But we can say, hey, we have you for 4 hours. And within those 4 hours, we'll do these deliveries. And then we have other projects that we can do if we don't have other deliveries after. But we only know that we have them for that amount of time. So it really allows us to really maximize that opportunity while being very aware of how much money that we're spending for said person.
So you have a list of other projects you just kind of keep running for when they have that extra time? Wow, that's so smart. I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples of some of those projects? I know we just had a session, the warehouse tours, where one of the things they were talking about was having somebody on a weekly basis make sure there's enough gaff tape, make sure there's enough of these little things. Are there things like that that are involved?
Yeah, definitely. So we always say customer service is 1 and our products is 1A. So as you know, we're doing weddings. So we're talking about outdoor ceremonies, indoor ceremonies, chairs that are magically fall over, are chipped. So during those times, we're like, hey, we have folding chairs that have to be cleaned. Or we use the opportunity for them to sand down the Chivari chairs, get them cleaned up, making sure that none of our glass charger plates are broken. We know exactly what events are coming up. So we already have an idea of what items will be needed. So that's when we have those individuals come into play to kind of be very proactive with getting us set up for the next week, or even just working on those small things. And one thing too is we've been very fortunate to work with younger people. So they love social media. So really honing in on those things that people enjoy and giving them the opportunity to really embrace what they enjoy, but also us being able to leverage that experience and having them work on different projects too. So it's not even just the staffing people, but just like the entire team in general. It's like, what else do you like to do in addition to setting up? And if they're like, we love social media, perfect. Here are some things that we can do, and they kill it all the time. So yes.
That's awesome. I love that you're giving them the opportunity to work on something they want to work on. That's so motivating.
Right. Yes.
What about you, Cam? Where are some of the places that you look for people to work for you?
Honestly, the best place that we have had people work for us is people who are related or friends with people who are on my staff already. If I already have invested people on my team, they are going to rave about my business and they're going to rave about how great it is to work here. And I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point, I'm the queen of SOPs, love SOPs, which an SOP is a standard operating procedure. It's how you do what you do, like a step-by-step process. And we give everyone SOPs on our training team. We make sure everyone is in the full know before they even step foot into my warehouse. And so if someone loves working here, they're going to refer their friends and they're going to refer their family. Right now, I'm sure everyone is dealing with not having enough staff because of people not wanting to work or people finding a new joy in their life and they don't necessarily want to work for the events industry, or certain things happen in life that they're like, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. And so everyone's dealing with struggling on staffing your events. We are right there too. We're not the ones that are like, everything's perfect over here. It's never perfect. We're humans. It happens. And so in our weekly team meetings, we'll discuss, hey, we've got this delivery, this delivery, this delivery. Where is our staffing needs for those? And if we are short staffed and we're like, hey, we really need 4 people for this, and we only have 2 or we only have 3, and it's like a HUPA that really does require 4 people, or else somebody's going to get hurt, or my inventory is going to be damaged because it's too much weight and too much, too big of a substantial piece of inventory to set up with 3 people. We will then ask people on our team, hey, do you have a brother? Do you have a friend? Do you have a friend of a friend? Like, how can we get someone on our team as soon as possible? And how can we expedite that training process to where when they're showing up on site, whether they're meeting us on site or they're meeting us here, that we can give those SOPs and give them a like, hey, here's what to expect when you come here. And so we're full, we're full believers in, if you love to work here, you're going to refer your friends and your family. And so actually the people on staff right now, John, who's been on my team for, I think he's going on his 5th year with me, his brother's cousin on the other side of the family, like his wife's side of the family, his son is working for me right now. And then the son of the wife's family, you know, all that, his best friend is working for me right now. And so it's all intertwined. And John actually started with my company because Kaylee, who's on my team, which if you've listened to the Render podcast, if you've known my business at all, you know that Kaylee is a very big cornerstone of this business. Her dad employed John a long time ago, like 20 years ago. And so that's how we have John, was ultimately because of Kaylee. So Kaylee had John, John had Dominic, Dominic brought in Robert. And so it's just a chain effect because the people here really love their jobs. The other option, if you don't have that as an option, ZipRecruiter has been a really great option for us, in Indeed.com if you are looking for someone. I also teach in my online course, Rental Biz Academy, that if you can't find anyone there, which by the way, y'all will find this out if you don't know this about me. I'm the queen of like plans A, B, C, and D, and E and F and G and H, and I always have a backup plan for everything. And if I can't find someone there, then we'll check out local coffee shops, any concert venues, because they usually have heavy weight to do, and they are usually there at night or early in the mornings. They're used to a weird schedule. And so those are really great options. Firefighting departments, police departments, places like those, because again, they're used to weird shifts and weird hours. And they usually, if you're on like a medical team or a police department, you have to have some muscle. And to have a rental company, you've got to have some muscle. And so all that to say, those are some of the other options that we've tried in the past.
Oh my gosh, I'm making like notes here, making sure that our team is making notes. Firefighting and police departments, that's brilliant. I would have never thought of that. Like you said, people who are strong, who have strange schedules.
Yeah, we had one guy who worked for us. He moved up to the SWAT team now, but he used to be on a police department in one of the suburbs in DFW. And he'd give us a shift because you were either on A, B, or C shift. And so he would say, hey, I've just switched to B shifts, which means my schedule is this. And so schedule me for anything and everything outside of those hours. He was a single guy, no kids, no responsibilities really. And so he was like, I'm free all the time. So schedule me, here's my shifts for the next, 6 months to a year. And he doesn't anymore because he just doesn't have time because he's moved up now. But really great because they also have predictable schedules as well.
That's awesome. Mike, what about you? Have you found that friends and family referrals is helpful? Have you found that staffing agencies have been helpful? What have you been mostly relying on?
Honestly, we deal with friends and family 99% of the time. We have gone to staffing agencies. We've gotten a few workers out of them, but they don't last that long. And on ZipRecruiter, all the rest of them, if we put an ad out 2 years ago, we were getting maybe 20 guys to come in this office. maybe 3 of them were qualified. After the 3 of them were qualified, they would show up for a day or two, and that was the end of them. It was mostly friends and family. I agree with Cam 1,000%. We had no luck. And not being, most of my staff here right now is Spanish guys. I'm Spanish myself, but Americans where we are in New York, not saying the other states, we have no luck with Americans here. Not a job they're willing to do. It's long hours, and they're just not willing to work. That's our biggest problem. Unemployment took them all away.
Do you think that one of the things that's really nice with these referrals is that people are more able to express what the job entails? Like we talked about on another session earlier today, the kind of expectation setting. We do that with Goodshuffle. We've had people who want to come from the events industry to the tech industry, which we love. A lot of us come from the events industry ourselves, but one of the things I've had to say is the expectation setting of, look, if you're used to being on your feet and popping around from thing to thing all day, are you sure that you're going to be okay sitting at a desk all day? Like that is really brutal for a lot of people. So do you think that one of the things that is getting people who are excited and willing to work is because their cousin or friend or brother told them, hey, FYI, here's the bad parts of it, here's the good parts of it, so that they came in with the right expectations?
I do agree with that 100%. The only bad part when we have cousins and friends here, they all become very jealous of each other. And that's the biggest problem we have. Eventually, this guy doesn't want to work with this guy hates this guy. I think what draws them to us the most, money. We take care of our employees very well, but I'm going to be honest with you, these guys are making a lot of money, and a lot of other industries, like in the winter right now, we're cold up in New York right now. We still have on staff 18 guys in the winter.
Wow.
And that's slow for us. And they're all getting 40 plus hours a week right now. And the security blanket of them knowing they're getting that is a big thing as well. I'll tell you one thing, I could not do this job myself in the field any longer the way they do it. These guys are meant for this. And that's why we're so thankful. Like I was saying, Charlena and Cam, they're in a field that's sometimes a little more glamorous. Our field, we're in the trenches constantly, in the cold, raining weather. We work in everything. And like I said, I just can't thank these guys enough. And they're gratitude. I'm so grateful of them. You do so much for us.
I think it's, I had a hard time when I was coming up with the order in which to put this, because as you can tell, a little bit of a spoiler alert, a lot of what we're going to talk about in a little bit with how you retain people, it actually comes full circle of how you attract people. As Cam said, as Mike said, I think you're all saying that you get these referrals, they're the best workers, but guess what? You're not going to get referrals if people don't love their job. They're not going to go running and telling people, hey, come work for my company. If you are complaining at the dinner table whenever you have like a family dinner, oh my gosh, I hate my job, you're not going to then come to dinner one week and be like, oh, hey, my job's looking to hire. The family jumping to work alongside you. People want to work with people who sound like they love their jobs. And, to Mike's point, a lot of parts of the events industry can be very grueling. And so whether it is compensation that makes up for it, whether it is some of the other things we'll talk about of different unique ways to reward folks, you really have to think realistically, how highly is this person speaking of their job to their friends? What about for the interview process? What are some of the things, have you all found there's specific questions you need to ask? We had someone the other day mention that they now have a practice run. I actually think a couple of people mentioned this. I know Brenton Thompson mentioned this from Endless Event Group in Canada. He said that he goes through, I think, a first round, but by the second round, it's coming and actually setting up tents, which again came back to that expectation setting, but also then you can see if they actually know what they're doing or know how to follow a standard operating procedure. I'll start with you this time, Mike. We'll go with a reverse order. Tell me, are there things that you do when you're vetting people? Because just because someone's cousin doesn't mean they're going to actually know what to do.
Honestly, I've interviewed people and I thought I did all the right things. I was asking them questions about their backgrounds, about their college degrees, the drug testing we've done. We've done everything and anything. Lately, Witherstone, the guy's pretty much in the field, letting them go work and see how they handle it. Because we had no luck. We had people interview, they were 10, they were rock stars. 1 minute in the field, and they were just not right for the job. My biggest way of interviewing someone is, I want to know, do you have kids at home you have to feed? Do you need this money? Are you desperate for money? That's what I want to find with people. I don't want someone coming in this job, oh yeah, I'm going to work when I want to, I'm going to show up when I want to. it's not going to work. This field is not a fun field, and they'll tell you our weekends are gone. Our night times are all gone here. Like I said, these guys are working 24/7 a lot of the times, and it's a hard field. It's not easy. I think you both agree with me, Cam and Charlene. I think we're in the same field, correct?
Charlena's laughing. What about you? Are you having to kind of tease some of that out, be honest with that in the interview process?
Oh, definitely. I tell them, what we do, it's easy, right? Like we're putting up chairs, we're putting on table, setting up tables, putting out charger plates. And I always say it's labor. So if you don't want to do work like this, we're just not a good fit. And like you said, like you're going to work every weekend. So you may have a break in between, just depending what we have going on, but your whole weekend is done if we have a loaded weekend. So if you're not interested in working on Saturdays, majority of the weekends, all day, if you don't want to do physical labor, and I mean physical, and this could mean taking chairs upstairs, like I just give like the worst situation. And then if they're like, yes, I'm down with it, then I'm like, okay. But just to the point that like Michael said, like this is a hard job. Like you have to have the grit and just the ability to just want to go forward to do this, because like now that I'm in it, I'm like, this is crazy. Like this is not like working in an office, like what I used to do. Like, it's just totally different, but it is so rewarding. So when I go in, I give them the worst scenario ever. It's a hurricane. We have to get the chairs inside, and if they're like, yeah, then I'm like, okay. And for the most part, I think my stories have helped because these people, they keep coming back. So it works out. And then with the staffing agencies, they're very aware of what you need. And I've been very fortunate to get those people who are like, I'm down for anything. So I've been very fortunate to work with good reps from the staffing agencies. But I always give my new hires, or people who are interested, the worst case scenario. And if they say yes, then we're a good match.
Now, has that changed at all with the labor shortages? I mean, have you, Charlena, or you, Cam, had to kind of pull back on the negative stories because you're desperate, or you just think it's better to get the right people than to get enough people?
Yeah, no, for me, it's about the right people, because at the end of the day, like, just like Cam said, like I have a brother, like there are people that I can really connect with if I just need workers, right? But there are people out here who do want to work and there are people who don't. So like I said, getting out and just being really firm with what we need, because I'm spending, $20+ an hour. So for me, it's not a game. Like I really have to find people who really want to work and who are going to work. And if you're not going to work, then we'll just figure it out internally. But I'm not really interested in spending dollars where we end up spending a lot of money and then we end up doing a lot of work. That's not a match. So I'm not bending because of labor shortage. No, we'll figure it out. But yeah, no, what we need is what we need. So yeah.
What about you, Kim? Do you give kind of some of those worst case scenarios, or are there questions that you ask to sort of figure out who's going to be lazy or that sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. So we, and I actually teach this on the podcast on episode 55. I did have to look that up because we have almost 100 episodes now. But episode 55, if you want to go back and look, it's all about our hiring process and interview process. But we actually have a 4-step process to hiring anyone on the team. Other than, those last minute, like, hey, we need your brother, we need your friend. Those, they don't have to go through the interview process because we just need hands at that point. But on a normal basis, when we're hiring, first of all, we always have a job description for our installs and install leads. We separate into a leader on the delivery staff and then someone who's more of an assistant. That's always going to be on the website because we're always going to need someone. And so someone can go apply for that right now. You can go to my website and go see how we do that job description and what the interview process is for that. But for every position, we have a 4-step process, which, by the way, I've got my guys out there working on some stuff. So if it's loud, I'm sorry, but we're at my office. The first step is your application. We do that through Google Forms integrated right on our website. And so it's basic application questions. Why do you think you're a good fit for us? What's your past job experience? We want some references. some of that normal stuff. And then we move on to a video interview. We use a platform called myinterview.com. It is free, I believe. I think it's free. It's myinterview.com, and it is a video platform where you upload questions, and then you can specify the amount of time that they have to answer that question in a video format. This has cut down on so much time in the hiring process, which if you've hired anyone, it takes a lot of time to go through the application, bring them in, make sure they're a good fit for them to leave 2 seconds later. And so we want to make sure people are invested. And if you're invested through a 4-step interview process, you're probably invested to stay more than a couple months. And so we have them go through a video interview. And in there, we ask specific questions related to the position that they are interviewing for. So whether that is delivery staff or a project manager or a sales position or a marketing position, each position gets different questions because obviously we're not going to ask a marketing question to a delivery staff guy. And so that's the second part. The third part is we actually give them some sort of a project to work on. So very similar to Charlene, we want to give them scenarios and situations that could happen on a daily basis. We hope that every event and every delivery and retrieval is perfect. And there's no weather to deal with, and there's no broken product, there's no upset feelings. Right? We want perfect deliveries, but it's not a reality every single time. You can't guarantee 100% of good deliveries every time. And so we want to give them scenarios. Hey, what are you going to do when you have a 12-hour shift and I'm only giving you a 30-minute break because of the demand of the job and the demand of what you're doing? How are you going to handle multiple different logistics, timing, and inventory at the same time? What does your multitasking look like? And so we give them these scenarios of a real life example, something that's like, hey, you have a client, you've got a delivery today, and you've already gotten to the venue, but you realize you forgot a light bulb for the lamp. What is your solution on how you get that light bulb? And by the way, you only have 45 minutes to do so. And the warehouse is 20 minutes away. How are you going to do that? And what's your quick thinking? How are you going to figure out this situation? Because it's a reality. Sometimes they forget stuff. We're not perfect. We try to look pretty great on, the social media and all that, but I'm a very transparent teacher. And I will tell you, we mess up all the time because we are humans. And there are times that we forget light bulbs. There are times we forget legs to a coffee table or legs to a sofa, and we have to go figure it out. And sometimes it pisses off our client, but you know what? We're going to do our best, and we're going to do it with a smile on our face. And we're going to be overly helpful for them as well if we mess up, and even if we don't mess up. And so we give them scenarios of things that could happen. So that's step 3 of the 4-step process. And then step 4 is if we feel like each part of these areas, which we kind of weed out people as they go. So if their interview process video wise is not the best and we get a weird feeling, or they don't answer something, or maybe they answer so far off that it's like, how did you come up with that? Very confused. So we will weed out people based on how well that they perform. We never say that there's a right or wrong answer, but we want to see how you approach situations and what is your quick thinking abilities and all of that. And so we go to step 3. Step 4 is we bring you into an interview in person. And that's for us to really get to know each other and get to know each other on a personal side. We start those meetings by saying, hey, this interview is just as much about me interviewing you as you interviewing us and you want to work here. Because we fully believe that if you don't want to work here, you shouldn't work here. And so if we're not a good fit, no hard feelings, no big deal. But this is just as much me interviewing you as you interviewing me. And so if someone's going to ask me a super personal question, I'm going to say, you know what, that's a really great question. And maybe if we work together, I can share that story with you at some point, but I'm not going to right now. So we go through this interview process, and because it is a longer process, it's a couple weeks that it takes to go through this process, sometimes up to a month, depending on how many people we have apply for the position. And it might be long, but the people who are really wanting to work for us are going to stick around for the process. And sometimes we expedite that process depending on the need of the marketplace and all of that. And so that's just how we've done it. Again, episode 55 on the Render podcast. You can learn a little bit more about that I spend more than, a couple minutes talking about it. I talk about it for like 45 minutes. So that's just
great.
a quick, short way that we do our interviews.
I mean, people who hire out of desperation, you have to know the kind of quality that you're going to get out of that. It's not a good way. You have to go through it. I can tell you, we've worked with recruiters to try and we're hiring a ton of roles, and, we actually are having the same challenges everyone else, in all different levels and all different levels of seniority and all different departments. We're struggling to find the right people. And it's cracking me up because, for those who don't know, recruiters work entirely on commission. And so they make a big chunk of change if they close someone for you. And I got, I've been getting some pushback from a recruiter we worked with because he said, your process is too involved. You're asking too much of these candidates. They have plenty of options on the market now. They're not going to do a written assignment for you, Karen. They're not going to meet with you that many times. Of course he's going to say that because he wants to make, 20% of their salary that we pay him if he closes someone. And I was like, thanks, no thanks. Yeah, this is the way we do it. We actually have, as our leadership team has read a book called Who, which is about how you hire the right people. It's about hiring A+ players. I recommend it for everyone. But one of the things it talks about too is just the importance of asking the right questions. So I love, Kim, how you talked about these scenarios you build out. One of the thoughts I had too was, as Charlena was talking about kind of these worst case scenarios and who's going to really be okay with labor, a question that I sometimes ask folks is, what's the worst thing you've ever had to do for a job and why was it the worst? Because if they say like, oh, well, the worst thing I have ever had to do for a job was, clean the bathrooms. If that's part of what they're going to be doing is cleaning things, then why? Why was it bad? You don't like cleaning things? Or was it just not in the job description? Sometimes people can say the worst thing I ever had to do was this, personal task for my boss. I just thought it was inappropriate that he or she asked me to do that. Okay, so you just don't like having a bad manager. So I always try and push for more examples because, one of the things the book talks about is we tend to kind of lead the witness and ask people questions like, are you detail oriented? Well, of course they're going to say, yeah. I want to move along here from kind of where to look, how to look, and know about once you get them in. I know Cam has done some amazing blog posts and podcasts and webinars on SOPs. But I would love to hear just like, even just on day one, what are some things you do to set them up for success? Let's say you set the right expectations in the interview process. Mike, are there some things that people do on day one every single time that you have built in the process when you hire someone new?
I think the best thing you do, you want to set yourself up for success with any employee. Let them know you're organized. If they come into a show here of saying who's in charge, who's running the show here, what am I doing? What's my assignment? They show disorganization right away, they're set for failure. And once they realize that we're organized and we gave them all the tools to complete their jobs, I think they're going to be successful for you if they want to be. If they don't want to be, they will not be. That's what I feel here.
Yeah, I think you have to lead by example. I say this all the time. And if you're not doing something like staying organized, how can you expect your employees to? One of the things we talked about earlier is the importance of giving your staff logins to Goodshuffle and the importance of making sure that they're respected as, hey, you're an employee and here's your email and here's your login and here's what I expect of you. It's not just so that you can track them, but it's so that you're acknowledging day one, you're not just moving the chairs. Because if I'm kind of setting that expectation, well, I'm sort of implying that my expectations of them are low. And that's sort of how you get people to not have super high expectations. It's like, I always say, it's like when I was a teenager in high school, my mom made it very clear she knew I was going to rebel. So guess what I did? I rebelled all the time. You got to give your kids, you got to give your staff a little bit of trust and a little bit of confidence if you want them to rise to the occasion. Charlena, do you have like a welcome packet or manual? Do you give people swag on the first day? Is there any kind of like rituals you do at first?
So we have 2 leads. And so you get paired up with whomever, whatever the group is. Either you have the lead or you don't, but it's almost like a football huddle before. This is the game plan. This is where we're going. And during that time, we talk about the challenges at the venue. We kind of do like a rundown. And then on the commute to the venue, that's when a lot of the conversation is like really had. And that's when we talk about, what we're doing, how long it may take, what challenges they may incur. So really just trying to build that one-on-one. And that I really don't like to leave them like with a piece and they kind of figure it out. It's like, hey, we're going to this venue. This is what you can expect. The lead for that delivery, of course, is almost like an example. They show them what they need to do. And then after that, it's just put the cushions on or set the table up or fold the linens or whatever the case is. Just really more hands-on and kind of giving them as much information as possible. And I think too, with Goodshuffle Pro, like we know exactly where we're going, what we're doing. And in that space, the lead, they already know, what that person will need, and providing them the details for that delivery. So we just try to really do more like one-on-one so they can ask questions in real time. And it has worked for us.
Kim, anything you want to add in terms of whether, you've leaned on the software, the people, a combination for the training?
A combination of it. So we set up our training, especially the first week and first few days, kind of like you would, like when you enter school. And so you had English 101, you had English 102, you had English 103, and they built upon each other based on what you're learning. And so we have Render 101, Render Day 101. And that's when you come in, you fill out your paperwork, you get onboarded. We give everyone on the team a full rundown on who we were, who we are, what we do, the different brands that we serve. Because it's oftentimes, and most of you probably have heard someone on site when you're on, doing a delivery, hey, how long have you been around? Or what did you do a year ago? Or what types of events do you do? They ask you questions. And if you're not there to answer it, your guys, if they don't know, are going to say, I don't know, you should ask Cam. And then the conversation goes nowhere. It's not a way for you to build a relationship with the company to whoever's asking, or the person, if they, want to be here for a long time, to that person as well. And so we give them a Render Day 101. We are going to talk them through where we were, where we're going, what brands we serve. So we do talk to them about the education side of our brand. Hey, we do have a podcast. We have an online course. And we've got over 400 students worldwide and all of that. And so that if someone asks, like, what do you guys do? You can say, hey, we do education and we do rentals for events and such. And so all that to say, we want to give them a full round picture on their very first day here. We get them logged in and we show them certain things depending on how long their first day is. Day 2 is Render Day 102. And so that day is dedicated to reading SOPs, going through them. We also ask everyone who starts, hey, how do you learn best? Are you someone who wants hands-on training? Do you want to read things? Do you want to watch videos? Do you want to do it together? How do you retain information the best? Because if you're a hands-on learner and we give you something to read, you're not going to remember what you read. While they are well and good, and you should have SOPs and you should have your employees read them, they also should be a backup plan to, hey, if I forgot something, I know where to go locate it. So they should be reading your SOPs. But if they're also a hands-on learner, you want to pair that together. And so day 2 is dedicated to training specifically, and day 3 is practicing what you just did on day 2. And so if we don't have a delivery, we will mock up a delivery. The great thing is that where we're located, there's a venue literally right across the street. Literally, you have to play Frogger to get across the street to the venue. And if we don't have a delivery that day for a real event, we will have them do a mock. So we'll give them a mock Goodshuffle order and say, go load the truck. We're going to show you how to load the truck. We're going to walk you through how do you ratchet strap things in there. How do you make no marks on our velvet sofas with your ratchet straps? How tight is too tight and how loose is too loose? And so we go through all those things and then we go with them on site. And so we will either fake it and have someone from our office staff go over and be our client and all of that. But we wanted them to see, what does it actually look like? And if it's a real delivery, hey, Mike, then they kind of take a back seat and they are watching and they are learning, and they might step into, help a little bit, whether it's pulling pillows or taking things from truck to venue or things like that. But we like to compound everything that you're learning here. And then we also teach them, we cross-train them on a lot of things. So if our social media team is not able to make it out to the venue, we're going to teach them how do you take photos of things at the venue, because we all know that we get galleries back that are just not great. You're like, that sofa actually isn't that color. Why did you edit it so oddly? So we teach them how to take photos of things with their phone. Sometimes they come back great looking and sometimes they don't. And we're like, well, it is what it is. We'll redo that sometime else. But that's how we train, is we compound build on each other.
I would love to talk about retention because I also have a growing list of questions for the open Q&A. But, as we mentioned in the beginning, this is the key to bringing in new people. But of course, also bringing in new people is a pain and it's only gotten harder recently. And so the best thing you can do is keep people. You get someone great. The best thing you can do is keep them. Losing a great teammate is pretty much the worst thing. I'm sure we've all been there. So, I would love to kick it off with Mike. You mentioned having, pay is the most obvious one. So I want to kind of kick it to you to hear, how do you determine how much to pay people? I mean, I'm sure people are always asking. Some people ask for ridiculous amounts, like how much is too much, how much is too little. Oh, you're on mute. We won your face. We lost your voice.
After COVID first hit us in March 16th of 2020, when it was, we all thought the world was falling apart, but unfortunately we got very lucky with a lot of government contracts. We were working with the government and the money started flowing in. And now what I've noticed, no one has asked for a raise here because we are very fortunate to be able to give these guys a lot of money right now. These guys, they get raises. Let's say, for example, if they're making $20, now they're making 25 or 30. They get a $5 raise a year. We don't give them a dollar raise a year. Where I see fit, they know we're making money, and if I show them I care about them and I'm going to make them money as well, they're going to care about me. And they know I'm a very fair guy. Like, I've always loved my employees like they were family. I want to see their smiles on their face, because when there's a smile on their face, they'll go the extra yard for you. Coming to work every day, even myself, I hate it at times. I learned to love it because I learned how to balance life with work. And these guys, like I said, they're working 70, 80-hour, 90-hour weeks, in the summer, 120-hour weeks. We're doing stuff to keep them motivated as they were me. Like I said, we do a lot of work in the city too. And during October, we worked like 2 weeks straight in the city. We put every one of these guys up in Times Square, and they were out every day doing their thing, working hard, at nighttime playing hard. And they say, wow, this guy really cares about us. I never seen a hotel like that. If you show them you care more about them and reward them like that, of course, money is the biggest factor, but just show them you love them and care for them. That's how I feel. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I
if you
love how
guys
you talked
agree.
about as if it was me too. Like, put yourself
Yeah.
in these shoes. I hear people sometimes on some of the Facebook groups, some of the chatter, the way they're talking about their employees. I think, okay, if you're looking at somebody in that way, do you think they're not absorbing the way that you're feeling about them? I mean, how would you feel if you came in and your boss was looking down on you, or not giving you the same type of treatment that they get? They may not get the same pay as the boss. I think that's fair and to be expected, but the same treatment as a human is a pretty basic ask and a little bit overlooked sometimes, it seems. So I think that's great. And I've one of my favorite memories from the Matcha Trade Conference this year was playing arcade games with some of your staff members. They taught me
We
how
had
to
fun.
work my arm a little bit more on one of the
Yeah.
throw the ball at the clown games. And so I was thinking, like, yeah, a lot of people on our staff are always dying to go to these shows, and we can't take everyone. So what a great reward.
We just bring them to make sure they have fun. That's the biggest thing in life. They got to have fun to want to work here. That's what I tell them. I don't want you coming here with a push in your face, because it's a cancer to the rest of the staff here.
That's a really good point. One, you get people who are unhappy and they ruin it for everyone. I've totally worked on that team where 90% of people were happy, but all it took was one or two people starting to gossip and be unhappy, and it ruins it. You got to cut those people out. Are there other kind of unique things, outside of pay that, Charlena, that you're doing that you kind of have like a unique, whether it's swag, whether it's parties, anything else?
So outside of pay, which is number one all the time, like, like if I'm going to pay a staffing agency 20 odd whatever dollars, I'm going to pay my people that, like, because to me, like, they're a priority. And then we feed them. And we don't have to go to Wendy's. Like, we can go, just depending on the amount of time, like, we can go somewhere not nice. Like, we're not going to 5-star, but we're going to nice places and allowing them to have experiences. Because I think one thing about, like, a lot of people, or a lot of the workers that I've worked with, they haven't really had a lot of, like, just nice experiences. So it's nice to be able to take them somewhere where it's like, get what you want and just, like, enjoy. And even like Michael said too, the whole idea of like, if we have out of town gigs, like allowing them to experience that. We're not staying at a Days Inn, like we're staying in hotels that like me and my husband would stay in, and just really allowing them to just experience what it is to be a part of an organization that literally like loves you, because we wouldn't be able to do this without you. And so that's something that me and my team, like we always make sure that we let them know, like we truly appreciate you. And that's why we don't mind going out to dinner with you, especially if we get like teenagers. Oh my God, they love it. And it's like really just showing them, you know, whatever you experience in the world, that's the world. But you can find an organization who really loves you and they're going to take care of you as long as you just show up and just do the job. And that's something that feeding them and pay, that's my go-to all the time, because people want to feel appreciated and they want to feel it in their pocket and in their stomachs. And so I always hold on to that.
I love that, in their pockets and in their stomachs. I also like, though, that you're talking about maybe giving them an experience they wouldn't otherwise have. I mean, some of the things that people love about our team, you know, is that we, I think, let people experience things that aren't really in their department. You know, we have people kind of shadow other departments. I think it makes everyone a better, more cohesive team, but it's also kind of fun. It's sort of like, you know what, this might not be within my wheelhouse, but now I'm getting the opportunity to learn something new or do something that I wouldn't normally do. So, and like you said earlier about asking people what they want to do with the social media as an example of just, you know, giving people the opportunity to say, like, is there something that you haven't done that might be interesting to you? And sometimes people surprise you. Some people want to go to the conferences, some people don't. Some people want to go and visit our clients on site. Some people want to just, you know, whatever it may be. There's just opportunities there, but each person is very different. Cam, what are some of the unique things that Render that your employees get to enjoy?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I love everything that y'all are saying, and very true. Pay is number one. I want to make sure that we are treating people well, but we also are competing with other companies like Amazon that pays like crazy amounts, and they're doing really cool things for their employees and giving them extra benefits. And so if you're just worried about pay and that's all you're doing for your employees, while that might be great, it's also great. And you have the opportunity as a small business owner that you can do whatever you want to do. Like you can make whatever benefits you want to make up and make them unique to you and your brand. I also know that there is quite a few people on here that may not have been in business as long as us three. And so it's okay if you're not doing a lot of these things right now. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen in the very beginning, because it's usually a struggle bus for money and revenue in the very beginning. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I am not treating my employees very good, it's okay. You'll make it there. And there's little things that you can do that don't cost you a cent to do, but it makes people feel valued. People care about how you make them feel. And that goes way beyond anything else that you do. Obviously, you want to take care of them financially, but making them feel really great to work for you is also something that's very necessary and doesn't cost you a lot, or it doesn't cost you anything but your time and your care of them. Something that we do on our team that is free-ish, asterisk, depends on if you like buy something for it or not, but we include people on our team meetings. We have team meetings every week, and we want people to be in those because they're a part of the team. And we start with those team meetings, which I think I've talked about this a million times on the podcast, but we, in our team meetings every week, is we recite all of our core values, and each person on the team is assigned a core value that week. So for example, one of our core values is we choose joy. And it literally says we choose joy every freaking day. That is in the core value. And so if I have that core value because someone gifted that to me the week before, then my opportunity is I'm going to read that core value. And I'm really encouraging my staff to actually memorize our core values as they, you know, as we go. But they have their core value, and then they get to gift that to someone that they saw resembled your core value in the last week. And so if I had to choose joy because I was joyful last week and someone was like, Kate was really joyful, you get this one, then I now get the opportunity to look for that in someone on my staff and be able to give that to them the next week. We have 6 core values, and we have more than 6 people on staff. And so there are times that people don't get a core value. And that's not because they don't resemble something, but it gives them an opportunity to shine a little bit brighter if they want to. And that's something that makes them feel valued. When you're like, hey, John, you choose joy, or John, you are a servant leader, or John, you are whatever core value you want to give him, he feels seen and recognized. And that doesn't cost you anything other than coming up with your core values, which you're welcome to steal ours. I think they're pretty great, but they're also true to who we are. And we practice each of those. We don't just have core values that are on the website or on the wall or anything. We actually have tangible things that we do for each of our core values. So that's something that is free, that gives value to your employees. We also, after the first 90 days, give unlimited time off. And so you don't have to have 20 hours or 40 hours or 60 hours or no hours of PTO. We actually give unlimited time off. And it might sound scary. And I know some of you are like getting hives thinking about giving your employees unlimited time off. But let me tell you a little secret. Most of my employees don't take more than like 20 or 48 hours per year. I literally have to encourage them to take time off, like during the holidays, especially when Christmas is on like a Thursday, and they're like, well, we're to come in on, New Year's Eve. I'm like, or Christmas Eve. I'm like, no, you're not. You're actually going to go home and you're going to go be with your family, and you're going to go make memories, and you're going to go be with people. You're not going to be here in the cold warehouse, which also could be really warm because we're in Dallas and it was 80 degrees on Christmas this year. So all that to say, I give unlimited time off. We do events here. We do team building events every quarter, and then a big Christmas thing. And so everyone, including their significant other, gets to come to those. And so if you work here and your spouse doesn't work here, I believe that your spouse or your partner in life or the person that you go home to at night is just as much a part of this team as you are. They're the ones supporting you. They're the ones that are listening to you complain, and they're the ones listening to you when you're joyful about something that happened at work. And so I want you to include them in our team building events because I care about them as well. They're an extension of our family here. So all that to say, those are some easy things that don't really cost you a lot of money to do. And then I also agree with both of you and everything that you guys are doing with your teams. I pay for team meeting or team meals, not on every shift, but on quite a few shifts we do. And if they go out of town, I want them to experience that town more than just going and sitting in the hotel when they're not actually working. So I agree with both of you. And then I also want to encourage, there are some free ways that you can do it too. Don't get overwhelmed. Also, Mike, I think it's funny that your office is motion detected. I can tell.
This is not the first time today we've done this.
You're in a better environment. You've got windows. This is not related, but my boyfriend works at DFW Airport, and he works like no windows, and he has a motion detector. So
I hate this place.
Yeah, it's completely black. It's pitch black, and he's like stumbling around trying to find it. I actually think it's really funny, but anyways.
One of the things I think that you brought up that I think is just worth noting, we also have unlimited PTO, and we also have company values that we really strongly believe in, and we use them to dictate policies. And so when people tell me I can't, I can't imagine what it's like to have unlimited PTO, they either assume that no one ever takes it and that it's just some gimmick to make people never feel like they can never take time off, or they think people are going to just abuse it. And I always point to our very first company value, which is sincerely care about yourself, about your team, and about your work. And I say, if you are not taking any time off, then you're not following sincerely care about yourself. But if you're taking too much time off, you're not really sincerely caring about your work and your teammates, because you're going to leave them holding the bag. We're a pretty small team. So it makes it a lot easier, I think, to have policies and rules when you have them grounded in a company value that everyone has bought into, because you're not really just making a rule to make a rule. You can see how it's rooted in the value, and that we really do want people to care about themselves and also their work, and that's the balance we encourage them to strike on their own.
Yeah, we use very similar language. Our very first core value is very similar. So we work hard, live well. And so it says we work hard, really, really hard. We believe in being present where your feet are at. And so if you're at work, we expect you to produce big needle moving results. We expect you to crush it here at work. And when you're home, we expect you to live with your family and be present where you're at with them. Don't be on your phone. Don't be on your email. Be present with your family or your friends. And if they are not doing that and they're not spending enough time with their family and friends, you're not really working hard and living well. you're just working hard. You're not fulfilling the second half of that core value. So we point to our first core value as well. And yes, Carmen, it is work hard, live well. Is what it is.
You're getting a lot of love from our team. Oh gosh, we're gonna have revisions to our company values after this. Watch.
Well, Cam, in the back of our warehouse, we put a sauna in for the staff here to use.
A
We want them
sauna?
to try, yeah, we want them to try to enjoy
That's
life.
hilarious.
Tell them that.
Our
And-
warehouse is a sauna here in
So
Dallas.
we actually, well, we're not down wrong. So we put it in so to de-stress them every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Just send them down here to Dallas. We'll give them
Yeah.
some hours and they can have a sauna while they work. It's really great.
Exactly.
Yeah. We also, it's funny, we didn't intentionally do this, but because we essentially have a sauna on the other side of the doors over there, we have a shower that's built in here. And so we provide towels, we provide shampoo, conditioner, soap, all the things that you need to take a shower here if you want to, because it gets freaking hot here in the summer. And so we have an area where our employees that are working out there and here, I will say the shower is pretty great. It's got great water pressure. That you can take a shower here if you want to and
Great.
towel off, and we have hair dryers and we have all the things that you can do to get ready here if you need to.
I love this. Oh my goodness. So many things that I didn't expect to come out of how people are retaining their employees, but great ones nonetheless. I know we're getting up on the time here. It is 2:30. It's about time for us to give people their break. However, we have some really good questions in the Q&A. I do want to go ahead and run through. If anyone else has any they want to add, now would be the time to drop it in. The first is about hiring seasonal employees. And I know this is always a big question. I know Mike gave a great example of, look, you can pay people really well just by consistent work. For folks who have big seasonality dips, are there any suggestions of where to find those people, how to encourage those people? Charlena, you're nodding. I'll let you answer first.
I would definitely use your local staffing agencies, honestly. I think just, what you're getting. It's really not many, it's not many games, it's like, I need X amount of people for this date, and you plug it in the system and they let you know who the person is. You pay for them, you tell them what time they start their work, what time they're done, and like, that's it. Right. And I know for us, because we're the same way, in the summer, we're typically slow. So it's, we need them in the spring when it's really heavy. And then in the summer, it's slower. So we don't need as many staff, but in the fall, we kind of pick up. So with that staffing agency, it allows that to where you just kind of fill in those blanks or those spots where you need to increase or decrease your staff. You can do that with the staffing agencies. That's what I would suggest.
Any other tips on the seasonal front? One tip I will give is, I know Cam mentioned earlier the idea of a specific industry to go after being people in service of police and firefighters. Another hot tip is people in the theater industry. Shout out to Colin, who we snatched from that industry and have occasionally borrowed his wife as well. My best friend since I was 4 years old is an actor. And so I learned very quickly that a lot of folks in that industry, when they're in a show, they are busy, or they may have side jobs as well. But sometimes the people in that industry, they can be completely consumed with shows for months at a time. And then if they don't get the part for an audition, they may have a couple months where they're not working. They may have a couple weeks where they're not working. So that might be another place to look is local theaters and people who are, because you're going to get people who are really smart and really creative who might just have funky hours or funky stretches of time that they're available. We also have a question here about personality tests. So Patrick said that Cam has mentioned that she is an Enneagram 3 before, and curious if you are asking people when you're interviewing them about personality tests or anything like that.
Yeah, it's on the application. It's one of the first things that we ask for is, what is your Enneagram number? Or if you don't do the Enneagram, what's a personality? If you've done a quiz, what is your quiz result from that? If they have not done it and they make it through the personality or through the whole interview process, we will pay for them to take the Enneagram test. And it's not because we're creepy and want to know what personality you are, but you will work better if I know what you personally are and what you have strengths in and what your weaknesses are. I'm going to be able to be a better leader to you, and I'm going to be be able to give you better projects to work on, deadlines to have, creativity, strengths and weaknesses. That's really important to have. And it makes me so happy that you know my Enneagram number because as a 3, I'm very proud of being a 3. But we do, and sometimes we will open up a position already thinking, hey, we want an Enneagram 1 for this, not because we want to single out everyone else, but we just know like for this position, you have to be a perfectionist. And this is going to be a big strength. And if they already have a 1 in their application, it's already going to flag it for me of like, this one's one to watch during this interview process because they already have the unique set of strengths to them that are going to really assist them in this job. Versus like if I need someone who's a perfectionist, an Enneagram 4 is going to struggle in the position that I have opening because it's not so individualistic and it's not as creative. It's very one-sided. And so the DISC assessment is really great. Enneagram is really great. 16 personalities is really great. But I would encourage you to pick one and really learn a lot about that personality quiz or whatever, realm, and really get to know it. And then it's really great, especially as your team grows, to understand, like, for example, Kaylee's on my leadership team, and she has someone who's under her as a team member. And it's really great to understand who each of those people are and how are they going to work really well together. Especially if you have to rely on someone else to complete your job. Are you someone who's going to clash a ton because of your personalities? And that's also not to say that I'm going to, pigeonhole into being a 4, because if you're a 4, you know that you do not want to be pigeonholed into a certain box. But I'm not trying to make people that thing, but it just helps me understand what's your strengths, what's your weaknesses, what are you passionate about? And how can I come alongside you really well?
We've also done the Strengths Finder test here at Goodshuffle, so I'll drop that in the link
Good.
as well if other people want to check that out. I know we're running up on time. I do want to give a couple shouts to some suggestions for part-time staff. People mentioned Gig Salad, Quick, and Instawork as some places that they have tried. We'll have to send out a poll in our newsletter this week and see if we can get people to let us know which ones they're using and which ones they like. But I really want to give a big shout out to all 3 of our panelists here. Thank you all so much for your time and wonderful insights. What a hot topic. What great takeaways. We've been over on our end taking so many notes so that we can hopefully share all your wisdom with other folks who asked us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
All right.